One of the key principles of the Agile Manifesto is to emphasize working software over comprehensive documentation. So that means we prefer having working software be our primary measure of progress versus comprehensive documents. Agile approaches focus on keeping documentation light or having just enough documentation to help you move forward and make progress. Most Agile teams use specific forms of documentation, and they favor those that are simple and highly visual. So, for example, a project backlog iteration, sprint backlog user story cards, and burn up and burn down charts are very common documentation forms used in Agile teams. All of these are very simple to use and are highly visual. And it's shown that visual communication is a lot more effective than communication via pages of text. Sometimes people feel that documentation is required for every process in every project. Reasons might be that it's needed for managing risk, following a process, information sharing, or detailing requirements. These are not valid reasons for generating comprehensive documentation and can actually hinder rather than help an Agile project success. In an Agile environment, you manage risk better by focusing on delivering the highest value items first versus by creating very comprehensive documents. And you can still follow a very specific and very effective process without having comprehensive documentation. In addition, sharing information among teams can happen in collaborative environments where people are talking verbally and communicating without the need for documents. And from an Agile perspective, thoroughly detailing requirements early in a project is wasteful. It's too soon at that point for customers to know what they really want at a detailed level. So requirements are likely to change. We know that early on in a project is the point where we know the least that we're ever going to know about that project. That's the worst point in the project lifecycle to try and create very detailed, comprehensive documents about what's required. With all of that being said, there are, of course, valid types of documentation that are quite useful and contribute to the success of an Agile project. For example, the vision statement defines the ultimate goals of a project and the why we're building this project. A project overview summarizes critical information about a project such as the vision, technologies used, and operating processes. It should be just a few pages long. Requirements documentation, of course, are helpful, even essential to have. Product requirements may be documented in many different forms, including, for example, the product backlog. Acceptance testing documents are also helpful. Acceptance criteria is used by testers to determine whether the requirement has been met. Acceptance testing documents specify those acceptance criteria, and they help tell developers whether their work is complete and whether it meets expectations of stakeholders. Support documentation is designed for those who will become responsible for supporting a project and a product once it's released. It may include problem escalation procedures, a list of important contacts, and a troubleshooting guide. User documentation may include training manuals, user manuals, and quick reference cards. It's designed to equip users to use a product and to find answers to their questions about it without having to call support staff. So in Agile environments, there are still documents that are generated. However, the focus is on creating really effective communication, not documenting what doesn't need to be documented, and not spending too much time documenting things that you know will change later on in the project. In summary, helpful documentation to create for an Agile project includes the vision statement, the project overview, requirements documentation, acceptance testing documents, support documentation, and user documentation.